Welcome to our very first Jump Point podcast. We decided to come back to Toronto because this is where it started for us.
Yeah.
Hold up, Tim, I have this idea. I think we need to go back further in time. Do you trust me?
I do.
Welcome to the Jump Point podcast. This is our rebirth after taking a year sabbatical off. I'm Sarah,
I'm Tim.
co-founders of Flow Network, and
We have our Jump Point mugs, and this is the Jump Point podcast.
Cheers, Tim.
Cheers,
We've been talking
Sarah.
about this podcast for years, a long time. And this episode, we're going to talk about what is a jump point and drink our coffee.
What is a jump point?
We're going to talk about what is a jump point. We're going to talk about why we feel this is such an important conversation to be having right now. And a little bit about
Making
where
stuff
we are.
up as we go.
Where we are, what we're doing, because we're making a big jump. We are literally moving across Canada to a whole new province,
We're going west.
to a whole new way of living, and we feel like we've got some things to share about jump point. So Tim, what's a jump point?
Jump Point. So it's interesting because we had a consulting company for a number of years, and in that phase, we changed the names of the companies from time to time, and for a period of about 8-9 years, we called the company Jump Point. And that frame of reference was in recognition that businesses at that point in time, and the businesses were small, medium, large, were actually going through significant change, significant transformation, because there was a phenomena that was taking place called VUCA, where there's a recognition in the academic world that volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, VUCA, was something that was really disrupting the world at large, and then business, and oh my gosh, what do we do about that? And we happened to be, we never called it VUCA, we called it a bunch of different things, but VUCA all of a sudden took off, and we thought, boom, we're going to go with that, because right then, that's what was part of the discussion. How do you actually deal with stuff that you can't control anymore?
Yeah, and how do you deal with, but more importantly, how do you navigate in a world that is changing rapidly, which is
Constant.
the circumstances that we see now in this 2024 we are currently in. And so we always talk about before you have a new beginning, and a jump point is really a place where you are jumping into a new beginning. And as we've been talking about on Flow Network, it's very obvious now that the old world is dying and a new one is yet to emerge. And this is our jump point in evolution. This is our jump point in making big moves in our individual life, and also just watching what's going on out there in the world. And as we talk about, before you embrace a new beginning, you have to let go. And
that is not at all obvious to anybody.
yes,
Even if we actually continue to have this conversation for as long as we have, because the typical thing is you want to start something brand new and you just want to get going. Come on, forget about this other stuff. Let's just go.
yeah. And you can even look at it as like, oh, I'm letting go of, we're moving, so we're letting go of physical stuff. And, is that what you mean by letting go? And no, the deeper part of this, and this, we have models, the flow wave model, we have the flow spiral, we have the 5 levels of flow, and we have all these free videos that you can go and check out for the depths of all of these conversations that we will be talking about throughout this Jump Point podcast. But the real letting go is like letting go of patterns, of stories, of trauma, of emotional trauma. It's all inner stuff. So I've been reflecting on 7 years ago, like we talk a lot about 7-year cycles and how we literally become, all the cells in the body apparently are recycled every 7 years. And there's also tons of different psychological research and psychology, and we happen to like Richard Rudd's work as well, that is top of mind for me in his cycles of 7. So 7 years ago, I sold my house and I did a big move. I moved from the city where I was born and I moved to Toronto. And I did all these external changes
which people would call change.
And I was starting this new beginning in Toronto, and I was in denial of how much letting go I was about to experience. And really, when I wasn't so conscious of all the letting go that I had to do, and we have the flow model to describe like the betrayal, the stages that you go through. I'm just so glad that 7 years later, I have much more awareness to really understand the letting go, and we literally create space for the physical movement of stuff, but then also the space in our day for the emotional movement of stuff.
Which is the huge thing. So we live in a world that's changing quite quickly, and most people actually, and it still is to this day, the thing that people think about mostly is the change. We're moving from here to the western coast of Canada. So that's the change. And the change is not the challenge. That's not the big challenge. The challenge is inside here. They call it, in psychology, they call it transition. So it's the transition that we have to navigate. And the very first thing that we have to do is we don't have to actually go and go in relative to figuring out what we're going to move and everything else. We have to start letting go of our identity, letting go of our possessions, in our case, because we're letting go of a lot of things, letting go of the things that defined us during the phase leading up to this point in time.
Yeah.
That's some fancy footwork there.
Yeah, you're looking at a lot of stuff from the past that you're letting go of.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like just your roles, your responsibilities, what you thought your life was going to be, what I thought my life was going to be. And I love the garden is behind us, and you've been sharing that garden on Flow Network, the development of that garden and the purpose behind that garden when Sharon was alive, and now digging it up and preparing it before we leave, and just replenishing the land, digging up all the roots, making a practice of, I just love it. We're digging out the weeds, we're pulling out the weeds, we're pulling out whatever that may it be internal, pulling out the weeds, the internal programs that are no longer serving us or that we want to bring forward with us to this new life, basically.
And it is a fantastic metaphor.
Yeah,
we've talked about a ton. When we got to this, so this was a rental place. Sharon was sick. She was diagnosed with cancer. She, at that point in time, ended up selling her house and moving to a rental house. And when in a rental house, the thinking is it helps with the transition. It's managing transitions, letting go of an identity with a house to something that's a rental. And so we thought, all right, let's build a garden, because Sharon really loved gardening and we really love gardening, and it's a grand metaphor. So here we are in the process of recognizing we bought a place out west, and so we're going to move there. So the thing is in a change context, we wouldn't have to do anything about the garden. The garden, whatever, it's got a whole bunch of weeds and everything else. Who cares? Just let it go. And Tim was kind of on part of that team, saying, like, oh my gosh, on top of everything else we've got to do I have to actually engage in all the emotions associated with letting go of something that helped ground me and you and Sharon through the last stages of her life?
Yeah.
So I'm in there digging up weeds as the metaphor and bawling pretty consistently, and then being cool with that. And when I say cool with that, it's part of the letting go process that has to happen at the psychological level. Well, in my experience, I'd never heard about that. Now, having said that, we've worked with this kind of concept for quite some time, and we've helped clients with it, we've helped ourselves with it. And even that said, I was on the side that said, you know what, I don't think I'm going to have time to actually go and transit from that space and then bring it back to the way it was before we got here. And you were so wonderfully solid on that in a really soft, delicate, supportive way, saying, yeah, we're the ones who actually created that. Don't you think it would be a great opportunity to transit? To which absolutely I agreed. That said, it wasn't the thing that the first thing waking up in the morning, thought, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can go in there and I can go in and start cleaning up that thing and digging out all the weeds and throwing them out and putting them in nice little places and then bawl all the time.
Yeah. Well, I was, life experience of my move 7 years ago that I spoke about, and just reflecting on who I was then and how I just wanted to push through, because there was a lot of uncomfortable emotions and situations that I
Of
would rather
course.
not deal with, which I think is pretty common. And so literally rolling up the sleeves and getting dirty and digging into, the what wants to come up to the surface to be loved, healed,
Let go.
transmuted, and let go of. Like, this isn't, for me, it's like, what is this jump point about? The main message, and we're starting with this one, is how much more present can I be in a transition, which some might call, but this is an epic transformation. This is a whole new level. This is a whole new timeline.
So when you say you're talking
this
about
jump point,
where
this
the world is at
where
this
the world
point in
is,
history.
this very moment, this
Yes.
time of recording is
It's August 23rd, my birthday.
I was
It's
going to say
today's our
this
birth-
is
my
Tim's
birthday.
birthday. 66 is a good number.
Yeah, it's a good
and,
number.
And
I was never going to say that I was actually 66. I was going to say like 46, but now we
well,
know.
actually, your chiropractor did tell you that you look
Yes, I
20
look 20
years
years
younger.
I'm going to go with that.
So there you go. And age is just a number anyways. And I mean, there is no, the thing is, like, the only moment is now. And that's the right frame of reference
That's
that
exactly.
we come from, is
Yeah.
the power of now. The only moment is now, being present, being with the uncomfortable. Because, I mean, it's such a great metaphor with a garden. Is like, we want to leave the earth better than when we came, hopefully. Right now, we're looking at, we've really not taken so great care of the earth. But, how can
As
we,
a species, you're
as a
saying. Oh, yeah, as a
species.
species.
So
for
how
sure.
can we as a species, like, leave this
Yeah, this is a
world
mini
better
version of it. Yeah.
better than when we left it? And it's, I love what Richard Rudd says, like, returning non-love with love. And for me, this is like the individual journey of, all the places inside of ourselves that haven't been loved, and how can we love them, and then how is that going to change our individual reality, yes, but also the collective at large. And I wanted to circle back to your birthday, because we'll be weaving in gene keys and human design and our flow models as well through this Jump Point podcast. But I think it's really powerful to share our story and our connection through the gene keys,
Right.
which is that through this codon ring of the whirlwind,
Which we
share,
I'll share half
you
of it,
have
the other half of it.
the freedom, the gift of freedom,
Yeah.
and mine is rebirth. And together it's the constant rebirth of freedom, or the freedom of rebirth. And that's a jump point. We can have jump points every single day. We're talking about this macro big jump point that we believe is this jump point in our evolution as a collective. But individually, we can have jump points every day where we pivot and we make a change that might be small but totally changes our trajectory. And I wanted to circle in that connection that we have with the ring of the whirlwind. We also have the codon ring of destiny that connects us, as well as the ring of union. And union is also something that we speak a lot about, this idea that we are all connected and that we are an interdependent web. And we will be weaving those themes throughout these Jump Point podcasts, as well as sharing our story. And we've been documenting our rebirth to freedom, really, as we made this big change with the passing of Sharon and taking the year off and just allowing ourselves to let go of as much as we could as possible, to be pulled to this new world, this, for us, a new world. And the rebirth coming in the form of Jump Point.
And I think it's fair to say that we think that this is the point in history where jump point, learning to navigate jump points, and I say jump points with flow rather than force. So pushing our way through it, all it does is build up inside. And then and everyone on the planet right now is dealing with the notion of, am I actually going to shift? I'm going to deal with this jump point that's going on right now, either with force or with flow.
Yeah.
And how to do that, we will be going into how to do that. We'll be going and giving visuals and giving examples and all that type of thing. And we wanted to kick that off, or kick this off with the first podcast, is to say, I'll speak for me, but I think it's for us. I am so excited about being able to talk about these types of things in a practical way at a point in history where we're having the amount of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity is absolutely through the roof. So much so that I don't even hear that term being used anymore because they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's become like the new normal.
Yeah.
So, and the other piece, then we'll tie in some of this human design and gene key prophecy, really, of this time that we're in right now, which also the astrology speaks to, is the death of planning that we've been in for the past hundreds of years.
400 plus years.
And
long
by
time.
2027, we move into this new energy that is nothing to do with planning. It's about the individual claiming our power, understanding like who we really are, our authenticity, and just living in this freedom. And Tim's whole design is actually the exact design of this future.
Based on when I was born, and so do with human design and gene keys
Yes.
and everything else. And so I have been.
You've
and
been way ahead of the time.
I'm wired to actually really, really take off from here on out into the future. And I have banged around.
The Sleeping Phoenix is what it's called for anyone who's in.
Yeah, into the future, 2027 and forward. But I've banged around in business and in life with a wiring that's actually very much about freedom and spontaneity.
The
And
energy of the future.
The energy of the future and the energy of the past is all about planning, incrementally planning for this, planning for that. And I happen to have all kinds of designations: chartered accountant, certified management accountant, bachelor of math,
Yeah,
to try and nail that sucker down. That
Yeah.
was there was my poke. And I mean, I got to a point where I could actually use this, but nothing ever worked for plan. Nothing ever worked for me that was planned. And I thought I was the freak of all freaks.
Yeah.
And now I understand, oh my gosh, it was never meant to be that, because as we move forward, planning is just going to fall apart for everybody, not just Tim.
Yes. You've been trying, you were schooled in the cross of planning.
Yeah, the planning. Yeah.
All the way. And your whole being and makeup is actually this new way. So I'm very excited for us to be, sharing this, for participating in and getting your models that you've literally been working on your whole adult life for the past 40 years and sharing them. They've been extremely helpful for me and so many people I've witnessed as well. So I'm so excited to be sharing.
This is so much fun.
And
we've been off and on to when we actually launched this. When do we launch this? When do we launch this? And I always knew it was going to be on my birthday, but I never shared that.
It had to be on your birthday.
But yes, I'm so excited about where we are and being able to be articulate with sharing a phenomena that actually, in my experience, has helped thousands of people calm down, start to actually understand how to navigate crazy, because it's going to get what appears to be crazy now. It's going to be nothing compared to what we're going to be seeing in the next couple of years.
I don't believe we have to experience the crazy if we understand the flow way, which is what all the models are about, how to be in the present moment and navigate from the present moment and navigate with calm and actually thrive
and enjoy it
and
just have fun drinking nice wonderful coffee out of nice mugs.
That's right. And have a great time.
A great time.
So stay tuned for more episodes. We're like we said, very excited. We have the We Ship as well, which has been documenting and telling the story of our evolution and our rebirth, and the amazing pilgrimage it felt like to find this home on the West Coast. First going to Italy, which is where we thought we were going to start shooting the Jump Point podcast, because we were called to Italy for a number of reasons, but one of them was just to recognize that Rome, where we were literally in Rome, actually is where I have some family from there, and the start of an empire, and that
Renaissance, like all of that kind of stuff blew up way back when. So we thought there's a good place to actually go where it all started.
And also where the suppression, where there was massive suppression, sit in that and to feel that within ourselves, and how we've felt like we never fit in, and how we've suppressed ourselves, and really needed to go through our own rebirth, and then inspire others to go on their journey of a rebirth to freedom, and freedom to rebirth.
So we're so excited about sharing with you all the fun little things that I've certainly learned because I haven't fit in, and now these tools and orientations fit in perfectly. So that's just fun in itself.
It is.
So stay tuned, and we look forward to continuing to connect with you on this mega massive jump point phenomenon.
Indeed.